Happy Thursday, everyone. It is Sharla Kornegay coming live to you with another Forever Friends Academy live episode. How are you guys doing? Thursday, we are almost to the weekend. Hopefully, you guys have been having a fantastic week, and I can get some of you guys on in here with me to have a nice, healthy conversation about relationships. So, let me introduce myself just in case there's someone new that catches the podcast tonight or the replay. My name is Sharla Kornegay. I'm an author, a recording artist, creator of Interact Coaching and Forever Friends Academy, where we talk about all relationship topics. And I focus on helping people get rid of the lazy loving so that they can build and develop relationships that last a lifetime. So, welcome. If you want to check out my music, on stage I go by Sharla K. That's with Sharla with an S, not a C. Definitely Google me, go on your favorite music platform of your choice and peruse my music catalog. Hopefully you'll find something that you like there. So that's enough about me. Let's get into tonight's topic. I wanted to continue the conversation that I started with you guys before Mother's Day. And let me say, happy belated Mother's Day to all the mothers. I didn't come on that Sunday night because I was enjoying my Mother's Day with my family. So, and I believe Mother's Day, Father's Day is every day, right? So definitely not too late to say happy Mother's Day to you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed your day, had some peace and relaxation, with enjoying your family. So I wanted to continue the conversation when I was on, I guess, a week before Mother's Day, where we were talking about fear of missing out. I had introduced a scenario to you guys, and I said that this scenario was actually based on a podcast that sometimes when I get a chance, I'll watch. And the podcast is called Hardly Initiated, and I basically extrapolated the scenario that I gave you guys from that actual podcast. And so I wanted to continue that conversation. We talked about the fear of missing out and how in the scenario was the gentleman who had the fear of missing out, but I do think across the board, right? Not just men, definitely women can have that as well. And it's basically having a fear that you're settling, that you are not getting the best of the best, right? The creme de la creme of the person that you're choosing. And, we talked about it. We talked about not making your decisions from a place of fear or a place of anxiety, because you'll never be able to kind of make the most beneficial, let's put it like that, the most beneficial experience that will yield you the most optimal experiences coming from a place of fear or coming from a place of anxiety. And in that scenario that I introduced to you guys, the gentleman was explaining that he was having a fear, having some anxiety in regards to trying to figure out if, this person is his person, and that if he settles, I don't want to say settles, if he commits to her. I love that better than settle down. I hate that term, settle down. But if he commits to her wholeheartedly, that he's not missing out on something else or something better will come along. So that's what we're talking about. And I have some clips to play for you guys tonight, because I think there's nothing better than actually seeing it, the scenario play out in real time that I took it from. And I wanted to build on the conversation because within, as you'll see when I play the clip, within the conversation that the gentleman has with a woman who is a relationship expert, she starts to talk about invisible value and intangible value in relationships, and how sometimes, particularly men, will miss out on some great relationships with women who offer a lot of value only because they don't see the intangible value that she offers. They don't see how that woman being brought into their life is making them a better person and bringing out so many different and sharpening so many areas of their character. So I wanted to start there and continue with you guys on that scenario, but definitely build upon it to talk about tangible and intangible values. So, my question for tonight, for you guys, is basically, let me pose it like this. What are the intangible values that if you're married, you feel like your spouse possessed still has, right? Where you knew that was like, okay, this is something that I know that this person is offering me and they're bringing to me, and I don't want to do life without this person. So if you are married or in a long-term relationship, answer it in that way. What do you believe was, if it's more than one, are the intangible values that your spouse offered to you? Right? Because the tangible ones are very easy for us to see, right? Because they're extrinsic, they're external. But we're going to talk about the intangible values today. So definitely answer from that space if you are married. If you're not married and you're single and you're looking towards being married, I would love for you to answer it in either one of these ways. What intangible value do you feel like you offer in a relationship? Or you can answer it in this way. What intangible value do you regard the most? Right? So that's the question for tonight. And I'm going to play the video to kind of start, just so that I can give you guys a little bit of a general overview on the scenario that I gave the last time that I was on. So again, this is from a podcast. Definitely check them out if you're ever on YouTube. It's a good podcast. It's faith-based. It's two young gentlemen. It's called Hardly Initiated. They talk about relationships, but they talk about, honestly, a great variety of different topics. But definitely check them out. They're really good content. So the first clip that I'm going to show you is basically him expressing what vulnerably he's going through in the current relationship that he's in, and some of his, I guess, hesitancy or reserve, or maybe it's not resistance right now. Maybe he's just at the bridge where he has to make, or feels like he has to make a choice whether he's going to continue to commit to this woman and build towards marriage, or if it's something that he's going to walk away from. So I want to play the clip for you guys, and then of course come back and chime in and get your thoughts. But before I play the clip, I want to show the QRC code, the QR code. I know my friend was like, Sharla, why do you keep saying QRC? It's QR code. Once you say the QRC, you don't have to say the code anymore. But anyway, QR code, I'm going to show it to you guys so that if you want to call me to talk to me screen to screen, not face to face, you can, if you don't feel like typing, to answer the questions that I have put out tonight about intangible value, right? So I'm going to put that code on, and I did update it because I did hear from a couple of people that they were having some issues the last time, but I fixed those issues, so you can call me, all right? So let me put up the QRC code, and then I'll play the video snippet for you guys. So here's the code. Definitely call me. Just scan the code, and then you'll be able to come on live with me now and answer those questions. All right, so let me prepare the video for you guys. I have about maybe 3 short snippets that I want to show you, but I'll show you the first part, kind of the introduction to the scenario and the conversation. All right, so.
But I've been dating a young lady for coming up on a year, and it's a committed situation where, I'm investing everything into our relationship. And you asked me pretty much, where it's gonna go.
That boy blushing. That boy blushing. Look at his face. He blushing.
Don't be wasting her time.
And I think about this because you hear that from the ladies all the time. Like, hey, I don't want to deal with these guys just wasting time. And you get the conversation again and again and again. How long is it gonna take you to make the decision? What's the next step in the relationship? And now that it's coming up on a year, I'm gonna be honest. I do feel a little pressure to say yes, we're gonna continue, or no, it's not quite working. And one of my, major concerns, is that how do I know I'm getting the best? And I don't want to say deal. That's in my mind.
No, I get
it's
it.
a deal.
I know exactly what you mean.
And I'm right brain, so I'm looking at all the things that I bring, looking at things she bring, but I'm still thinking about where I was. Okay, I had a certain level of options with women. Thinking about where I'm at now, she's part of that. The certain level I have now. So I'm like, okay, well, if this the trajectory been on, and I can see over the next 6 months to few years, this is where I'm gonna be. In my mind, I'm thinking like, what are these other options I'm gonna have access to, and what if I'm interested in those?
Yeah.
Honest thoughts.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's honest thought, and you have the FOMO, fear of missing out. And like I was sharing with you before we start rolling, this man that you're becoming, because I've watched you guys since you first started, and for those that don't know, Tyshawn was almost going to be my son-in-law. He used
She
to date
went
my
there.
daughter.
She went there.
But I've watched you grow, but I think what you have to realize is, so has she. So while you're not becoming this amazing man that you see and what you bring to the table by yourself. She is there to put that feminine creativity, that support, that love, that respect, her ability to be agreeable, her ability to challenge you, all of those things that this man that you feel like you are turning into, she plays a part in that. But I got to say, this is why a lot of women don't like being the ride or die and sticking with you until you make it to that next level. Because as much as we pour into you, it's the possibility that you go from a bronze penny to a shiny quarter and you want something else. But she was there while you were a bronze penny. She was there while you were making this transition that you've made. So why can't she benefit from that?
That exact same scenario that she presents in the video, where a lot of women feel like that, where they've either seen it happen, where they feel like, oh, I was supporting him, I was by his side. The man that he came to be was because of, our engagement and how we were engaging with each other. And then once he got to this place, then he decided to, end the relationship with me and be with someone else, And I usually always say, relationships aren't like a Build-A-Bear type of thing, but I get from their standpoint of what they're saying and them feeling like they've invested a lot, only for that person to have kind of a lingering thought that gentleman is having in that video, to say, okay, now, now that I've gotten to this place, I can get something better. So I definitely wanted you guys to see the visual of it. And as I was stating before, because I presented it, whether it's a red flag, should the young lady, if she's listening, I don't know in this scenario if the young lady that he is dealing with actually did listen to him saying that, but I put in the scenario that the young lady in my scenario did hear him say that, and then of course felt like he's not sure about me, and whether it should be red light, full stop, not something that you want to build, towards, because he's not sure, right? Or if it's something where it's like, no, it's not full stop, but maybe it's a pause, right? Maybe they can go through, definitely have a conversation between each other, definitely maybe go into therapy or coaching to figure out what is, if there are real issues, or if this is just something that's is his own, right, personal struggle. So what I said in the scenario was that, one of the greatest things, and I just had one of my Forever Friends Academy private group coaching, outside of me coming on doing the lives here with you guys. And we were talking about dealing with and understanding and having more deeper and meaningful relationships. And I told them one of the most impactful things that I learned earlier on in my developing my relationship, my friendship with Ben into marriage, is that I've learned not to personalize, his condition, as well as mine, right? Because we can personalize our own condition, right? It meaning if we're in a fragile state, or if we're in an uncomfortable state, or we're struggling with something, we can personalize that condition and then almost hold ourselves captive in that moment, in that process that you're in. And it's just a process. And if you allow it to be a process, it will pass and you will grow into, right, or hopefully use whatever situation or circumstance or process that you're in as opportunity for growth. And so what I said, that if I was in that young lady's shoes, the first thing I would have to do is not personalize what he said, right? That this is his own, internal processing, if you want to call it a struggle. I don't know yet, because again, they would have to sit down and really assess and see the value that's being exchanged in the relationship, and to see if it's worthwhile for both of them, right? But nonetheless, that's his own process. So regardless if you move her out the way and put another woman there, it probably would be a bridge that he would have to cross anyway. So that would be the first thing. And then I also said that for him, you don't want to make a decision based on anxiety, right? Anxiety is living in the future, thinking about something, contemplating about something that has not happened yet. There's no way to really make a decision that hits the target 100%, or is a holistic decision if we're using fear being the factor that's fueling the decision, or anxiety that's fueling that decision. So he would, want to get to a place where, okay, I'm at a place where I'm in the present moment of what's going on in this relationship here and now, so that I can actually make a good assessment of what is going on, right? So those are the things that I talked about on the last session, but I just wanted to show you guys the first clip so that you can have more of like a visual understanding of the scenario that I was bringing about. So definitely let me know. Hey, Mr. De Jesus, welcome to our live episode. Tonight, we are talking about intangible value in relationships, but mainly the intangible, because I think, especially in today's culture that we live in, the tangible things in relationships are like the hot topic, right? It is constantly trending right now, whether it's women who look at men who are a certain amount of feet tall, 6 feet and over, or making six figures and over. Those are tangible value that someone can offer in a relationship. And those are the obvious, right? And if it's on the other end, maybe a woman's beauty would be a tangible so to offer value to a man, or her physique, or her ability to, cook or clean, right? Those are domestic, external, right? Things that can be done that can offer value to a relationship. And I think that's the pervasive conversation, it's what's being talked about numerous times. But I think the parts that aren't talked about so much is the intangible value that is offered in relationships. And I think, honestly, whether it's current day, modern relationships, or just throughout time, I think when we don't acknowledge or recognize or honor the intangible value in relationships that is being cultivated or is being offered, then the relationships are for sure going to fail, because you might find yourself in a space where a reoccurring space, like that gentleman is talking about in the video, where I'm looking for the next best thing, the next thing that is tangible that I can see for the moment to replace what I have now, right? But oftentimes you'll see people do that, and then they leave a person that was offering so much intangible value, and only in hindsight sometimes do they recognize it or acknowledge it or see it. So, but definitely, you guys let me know what your thoughts on. Definitely, Mr. De Jesus, I believe that's I have a mail in here, so I would love to know what your thoughts are in regards to, him having those feelings about whether he feels like, if he's throwing in his chips too early with the woman in his current relationship, and is that something that a typical normative thing that cross a man's mind when he is heavily considering a woman that he can see to potentially be his wife? Is that just a natural bridge that has to be crossed? I don't know if it's the same for women. I remember that automatically when I saw that video of him and I was going to present it as a scenario to you guys, I thought about probably one moment in college where, you know, because Ben and I, we knew, I've known him since I was 13. We started our forever friendship when we were 17. So honestly, he took me off off any kind of like, you know, he was like, yeah, you're gonna be mine. You know what I mean? So I didn't really do all of like extensive dating and being with all of these different people. And I remember going to college and I was seeing my girlfriends and let me know, any of you guys who might have went to college and did the whole dorm life thing, right? You see a lot of things go on, right? Go on in college. And I remember seeing, you know, some of the friends that I met in college, and I would see this one, you know, going out with this one night and going out with another one the other night. And at first it seemed like they were having just like the time of their life, you know? And I remember thinking like, okay, you know, and I remember we particularly had, you know, some people who felt like, okay, how are you guys going to last? Because Ben went to a different college. I went to another college. So we were long distance for a little bit. And, you know, you heard people like, not much of a chance that you guys are going to like make it through the whole, you know, college life. And of course, these were people who had already went through it, right? But we were new to it. And I just remember having the thought like, maybe am I missing out on something, you know, because they look like they just having a ball. But let me tell you, that quickly changed real quick, because those same people, you know, that I looked at and it seemed like they were having a ball, very quickly turned around and started having some really uncomfortable and not the most optimal experiences for them, you know. And I guess the excitement of it, you know, quickly turned into tears, you know, that they would come and talk to me about. And in that moment, I was just like, oh, wow. You know, it made me very grateful that I entered that space in college. It made me see that I was able to avoid a lot of nonsense, you know, because I had already was developing this in-depth, beautiful relationship and friendship with Ben that definitely was blossoming. And it wasn't fluff. It wasn't fleeting. It wasn't, you know, where usury, you know, where one person is, or both people are using each other for a moment. And then because there is no real enrichment or real substance in the relationship, then it's just like they just feel depleted, you know. So it definitely made me think of that, because that was a moment where I guess trying to find a relatable moment to what he said, that would be it for me. But I think at the end of the day, when it comes to what he is contemplating and what he's talking about in the video, I'll say what I said in the previous episode, is that that is something that would have to be dealt with no matter what. Even if you felt like you found, you know, there's no perfect person, right? But even if you found the just right person for you, the idea of, if you're going to be a person who is going to say, I'm going to be in a monogamous, committed relationship for a lifetime with this person, you are every step, you know what I mean? You are going to have to wake up every day and say, I choose you. I see all of these different people, you know, maybe in another lifetime or whatever, as Erykah Badu, right? I'll see you next lifetime. You might wonder if what they had to offer is a better fit, or et cetera. There's no way you'd have to cross that hurdle anyway, you know, to be able to say, okay, no, I still choose you, you know. So I don't think it's even with the just right person for you, you still have to cross that bridge and continue to make that choice to be in a committed relationship, you know? Hey, Corey, how are you? Welcome. I don't know if you are, when you came in, but tonight we are talking about tangible and intangible value in relationships. And I put out a scenario. I played a little video of a gentleman on a podcast. The podcast is called Hardly Initiated, and he basically was expressing that he was experiencing FOMO, which is fear of missing out. He's dating a young lady. She is great, but he is continuing to grow, whether it be financially, emotionally, in all areas of his life, and he sees that his growth has attracted her, and she's a certain caliber of woman. So in his mind, he's trying to process whether if he should wholeheartedly commit to her, or whether if he continues to grow, will there be another level, right, of a caliber of woman that he can be with? So that's what we're talking about tonight. And the question that I pose to everyone is, what are the intangible values that you saw that your partner, your spouse, had to offer you, that you were like, sold, right? Done deal for you. And if you are single and you are wanting to answer that question, you can just pose it as, what are the intangible values that you feel like you have to offer in a relationship? Or what are the intangible values that if you were engaging with someone who could be a potential partner for you, what are the intangible values that you regard the most, that are highly, important to you? So that's what we're talking about. I'm going to play another video for you guys to segue into the talking about the invisible, intangible values, and then I'll play that video, and then I'll come back to you guys, see if I have any thoughts, and then I'll share what mines are with you guys tonight. All right, so let me play that one, and then I'll be right back.
And you mentioned they were called these
Her
invisible
invisible values.
invisible
We
values.
got to talk about those, because a lot of
Yeah.
times men, we don't know how to put value on things we can't see, feel, and touch.
Exactly. And that's what, when I paused, coaching for almost 20 years, I've been in this space. My very first YouTube video was in 2008. Do not go look it up. It is horrible. I was on a little Metro PCS phone, and the screen was green. But I've been in this space for a long time. And one of the things that I see consistently is men and women fighting over who gives more. Men look at it from the monetary perspective, but the problem is not even women know how to articulate their invisible value. So when you think about a woman, let's say you decide to propose to this woman. Tell me what the things that you are going to be contemplating in your mind if you decide, you know what, I want to marry her or whoever.
Okay, so
Tell me that.
first, when I think about my value, I'm like, okay, I'm helping you grow your business. I'm helping you put more money in your pocket. I'm helping you make decisions with your future and kind of where things are going. I'm helping, you prioritize the people in your life to know kind of, what goes where and how it works. I'm thinking about all these things. When I think about her and I think about those things, I'm like, well, I can't really look at my bank account and say that you helped me get X here in my business or helped me get there. But on the other end, I think, well, man, since I've been dating you, I've learned how to resolve issues a lot better. I've become extremely patient. I'm super motivated. I'm become even more protective of, my family, because now she's become a part of my family. So even how I think about the things that I should be doing is like, I'm very motivated to be a good role model. And I'm like excited to lead and have this opportunity to lead. So it's like this intangible thing where she makes me better, but it's like you can't really see it, you know what I'm saying, like on the bottom line type of thing. So that's what the confusion is at. I'm like, is that the deal? I help you with these tangible things and you help me with just becoming better?
No.
The conversation that is going on today in culture, everybody's focusing on the tangible, right? And I guess naturally so, right? The things we can obviously see are the things that we are going to kind of like lean into, right? It takes more uncovering, it takes more exploring, it takes more of focusing in and honing in to figure out what the intangible value that someone is bringing or this relationship is offering to us. So I completely understand. And like I said, even though they're highlighting it for men in particular, I do think that it's across the board, right? That especially just in modern culture, right? Like what we're focusing on more is the tangible value. Like how much does that person make? How do they look? And don't get me wrong, those things are important, right? Like attractiveness and having security in finances and things like that. But the things that, at least so far, right, that I have been able to sit down when I've talked to people who've been married to like for like 30 years, 25 years, 40 years. I recently just met a couple. I think they said they were married like 45, 50 years, like amazing, right? And so when you're talking to those couples, the things that they highlight are the intangible things that aren't easily seen. Those things are the things that help them, like a person's selflessness, and don't get me wrong, the intangible value can be shown in a very outward and physical way. And I'll just use me. I'll segue into giving you my answer for the question that I posed for you guys tonight, which is what is the intangible value that either you offer in a relationship or you recognize in your spouse that you felt like, okay, I need to spend the rest of my life with this person because of it. So I'll share what I think mine is. I'll have to ask Ben to confirm with you guys if this is true. But the first thing I thought about for the intangible value that I offer to the development of my friendship with men or into marriage is the selflessness. Like I really try to not be a selfish person. I really try to look at things the best way I can by coming out of my shoes and putting myself in someone else's shoes. Some people might say that's empathetic, but for me, it resonates more of like just selflessness. And I think the best way where it resonates with Ben particularly is that I know in the beginning of our friendship, he said from like day one, I'm looking for a wife, but I'm specifically in particular looking for a wife who can harmonize with me naturally and be able to flow with me in the will of God to do the things, right? And so to be able to serve with me. And so I think, and I don't really know, I'm trying to think, as I was trying to introduce it to you guys, I was trying to think of where did I get that from, that type of behaviorism. And honestly, I don't really, the only thing I can think of is the fact of, I always tell you guys a story that I didn't grow up with my parents, my mom on and off, but my father passed away early in my life when I was 7. So earlier on, I had to really learn how to kind of release the wanting of being able to receive love from them in the way that I thought, it should come. And so I think that was a big step of releasing selfishness. And I know every time when I say it, I hear a voice like, Sharla, that's not selfish, and when I tell other people, they say the same thing. It's like, you're a child, that's what you're supposed to want. But at the same time, if that's not the cards that were dealt to me, right? And I try to push against that and I hold on to the form that I want to experience the love in, then it does become selfish and it causes me to block out me experiencing love in so many other ways, and receiving different angels that God sent to me to help, right, fill some of those voids and guide me along the way. So I think probably that's where it comes from, because I think you having to release that at such a young age, it's easier for me to say, yeah, I think it's easier for me to say, okay, I want to make sure that I'm in a position to where I can help another person who might be like me, right? Who, is without someone or something that they need in life. And so I think definitely, now that I'm explaining it out loud, I think that's definitely where it comes from. And so I've seen where Ben, he has been able to kind of like function and do the things that he needs to do, whether it's like helping his, inner circle and his family, or whether it's in business. Is a certain freedom that he has, because he knows that I'm not a selfish person. I'm not going to say, no, don't do this. It has to be about me, or no, this person can't, come into our household, because I'm not that way. And I guess it's because of the honor that I have for the people who did, come into my life and offer things to me, or express love to me, or goodness to me, in the place of people who are supposed to be the most fundamental people that do it, right? Your mother and your father. So I think definitely that's where it comes from. So I think that's number one, right? And that is something that can't be, it's not really quantifiable, right? Like it's not it's not easy to calculate or see on the outside. I think maybe someone could see it if they talk to us, and I say, okay, this and this person we brought into our home, and this and this person we help, to guide to go on to, either marriage or business. As I speak, maybe then it can be seen, but a lot of times it's not easily, it's an intangible value, right? And so I think that's for me, as far as what I offer, that's intangible. That is an intangible value for him, and I think for me, for Ben, geez, he's got a lot of intangible value. But I think the first thing that comes to mind, and I don't really know how to explain it. I think when I think of Ben, it's just a certain amount of like, I just know I can trust him. I don't know, trustworthiness. I guess that's the best way. Is a word that I think that the best way I can explain it. And I think definitely that's intangible, right? Because we're always talking about people earning your trust, right? And for them to earn it, I always say differently. I say we give our trust away, honestly. And then, what people do with it, how they respond to it and things like that, of course, we then adjust. But there's just a certain amount of trustworthiness that I have, or that he has, and it creates a certain amount of like just consistent security. That's the best way I can explain it. And the security is just like, it's not seen, meaning like in the way of somebody who, like if you were a woman who was married to a husband who was very like, outright and wanting to protect you, and very external in that way, and acting outward in certain ways like that. It's not, it's very stealth, stealth and consistent. That his very presence, it is just trust to me, and is just security. So it's like in his presence, I know that I can feel that. And I've felt that from like day one, honestly. Day one. That's why I say I don't think that he earned my trust, even though, of course, right, throughout the years, there has been many situations where, right, the thing that I innately, naturally felt without having evidence to prove it, right, the fruits throughout the years affirmed that what I felt already in my heart and in my gut. So I would say I'd have to ask him if that's if that's also what he thought about himself. But I see some new people. Miss Mary, oh, I love you. I don't know if you're still in here. Thank you for popping in. Protagonist, wow, long time no see. Oh my gosh. Thank you for coming in. And beautiful Nora, how are you, love? Thank you for popping in. So all of the new folks who are popping in on the conversation, we are talking about tangible and intangible value in relationships. And the question that I pose for all you married folks out there, what are the intangible value that your partner, your spouse, possesses that made you feel like, yeah, I'm a wholeheartedly connect to this person, live a lifetime. If you are single on here and going towards marriage, what are the intangible things, value that you feel like you offer? Because I thought one of the things that stood out to me when I played that video for you guys is when she said that men sometimes, and I think it was a gentleman who actually said that, he said that men don't always know how to identify, right, the intangible value that a woman brings because they're so focused on the tangible. And she said something really interesting when she said that I don't even think that women know how to articulate their intangible value, right? So that definitely will cause confusion, right? Because if the woman in it of herself doesn't know how to articulate it, and then men have an inclination to look more towards the tangible because maybe that's what's easily seen as far as what they can bring, then yeah, we have definitely a way where misunderstanding can occur very easily, So I thought that was a very interesting point. So you guys, let me know what your thoughts are on this. And again, let me show you guys the QRC code for those who might want to call in. You might not want to type, it's late. So I get it. You might not want to type. So let me show you guys the QRC code for anyone who might want to call in. All right. You just have to scan it and you will be able to talk to me screen to screen. Okay. All right. So definitely do that. I would love to talk to you screen to screen and, dive into this conversation. So yeah, so that's the code if you want to call in. And yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. Definitely the ladies in here, do you agree with her? Definitely the statement she made about women, that she said that women sometimes, don't know how to articulate the intangible value that they offer to a relationship. And the men in here, is this scenario that I've thrown out from the video that I played, were you a man who had those same thoughts, or was it? I would love to hear from someone who it was completely not that way, that when you met your person, you knew like straight off, like, nope, this person is for me, hands down. There's no other person, or if you're a man who was like this gentleman in this scenario where he's like, I'm not sure I'm going to keep growing. Like, what if I'm missing out? I don't want to, put in my chips too early. What do you think? And if you are a gentleman on here, what would be your advice to a young man who might be going through some of those thoughts, to bring some sense of security to him? So definitely let me know. Let it marinate. Think about it. And I'm going to play the last snippet of the conversation that they're having in this video. And then you guys can let me know your thoughts. All right. So let's play the last one and then I will be right back.
But see, here's the thing. So I did a book called Her Invisible Value, What Feminine Women Bring to the Table. And the men's book come out in June. The reason why I wrote that book is because I wanted to list 100 traits that women have that you benefit from that you cannot see, but you experience. You feel them.
We need to read that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that came out in November. And the thing is, women don't know how to articulate those values to you, like our empathy, like our warmth, like our ability to be agreeable, our ability to challenge, our ability to influence. you think that all of the things that you listed is just helping her make money, and the things that you listed for her, that it's not. Her helping you gain more confidence allows you to walk into a room and close a deal. You know, her ability to support you allows you to take some things off of your plate that you don't have to deal with, that puts money in the bank. Just because she's not physically doing the labor doesn't mean she's not contributing. So when you as a man say, you know, I don't know what that is, think about it from this perspective. When a man asks a woman, will you marry me? He doesn't think about, she has a degree. She makes $100,000 a year. She is, you know, she's pretty, but she knows how to cook. Y'all don't think of that.
Right.
You think, man, I became a better man in her presence. I love how she loves me. I love how she respects me. All of these things are things you cannot touch. But based on the feeling and how she makes you feel about yourself, you're willing to marry her. You're willing to say forsaking all others for a feeling that you cannot see or touch. So how you figure that?
You know what?
Explain that one,
you
Ryan.
just bring up good points because what you describe as respect, like that's a huge thing. You know.
Oh yeah.
And of course we have our disagreements, but she don't give me no issue. It's like this. She's a pleasure to work with.
Let me
know
ask
what
you
I mean?
this. Is she good for your peace, legacy, and your portfolio?
I would say yeah.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
I love that. She said, is she good for your peace, your legacy, and your portfolio? I quite never heard it. I never heard it put that way before, but that's really good. I think there's so many good points that is brought up in that conversation, you know, and I talk about it a little differently on here, you know, and on my lives as well as in my private coaching. I always tell the people who are, you know, dating towards marriage or aspiring to be married, I always say you want to marry someone who is a formidable opponent to the vices that wish to hold you back. You know, you want to marry someone who, you know, as she said, you feel better about yourself when you're with them. And I think even more importantly than that, I think when you can find, and we were just talking about this, I just had a group session yesterday with my Forever Friends Academy participants, and we were talking about the fact that, you know, I have this like 4-tier, I guess, way of being able to engage and be able to experience optimally the relationships we keep. And I, you know, got this through divine inspiration because I wanted to show up the best way I could in my marriage with Ben. I wanted to make sure my lens were clear and that I was seeing him in the best way. And so in my internal prayer was some of those questions like, okay, God, is my lens clear? Am I seeing Ben for all of who he is? Am I seeing me, first of all, for all of who I am? And how can I, you know, experience loving him in the most optimal way? And the answer that I got was have a relationship approach to where you see him as a child of God first, a soul second, a friend third, and then lastly, the position that I have placed him in your life. And when I heard it, I was just like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense, you know, because it helps, at least for me, to keep the relationship centered on purpose. It helps to alleviate unrealistic expectations, and even it helps to appropriate, even if there are realistic expectations, it allows those expectations to still be subject to the truth, right? Or the purpose of what needs to either be addressed or what needs action that needs to be, you know, taken. And so we were on this call kind of analyzing and assessing, you know, what does it mean, you know, to be a child of God, and what does it mean when you're in a relationship? What kind of approach? What does that mean, right? And then we were talking about the soul, and I was giving them an example that, you know, as souls, right, we are our lived experiences shapes who we are, right? Certain conditions and states that we are in or processes that we go through are heavily based on that. And I told them, when I think of my husband as a soul, it lets me know that there are things that he's been through that have nothing to do with me, right? So it helps me not to personalize it. But I said one of the second things it allows me to do when I look at him as a soul is that it reminds me to create an authentic space for whatever process that he's going through to be filtered through the supreme love of God, right? So that's what, I was telling them, we talk a lot about safe space, but there's no safe space unless there's an authentic space first, right? Because there are people who come up to you and pretend and act like a false representative and act like it's a safe space, but because of the lack of authenticity, it can never render, right? It can never be a safe space in that way. So really, I was telling them what a safe space is that you have a partner and you have a person who's by your side, that whatever thoughts that you have about yourself, whatever shame, doubt, disappointment, embarrassment, however, galore, right, that we think of ourselves, that partner says, I am going to stay here as you go through this process and support you and stand in the fire to let you know that it's okay to face yourself. It's okay, whether it's facing your fears, whether it's facing, your disappointments, whether it's facing things that happen to you, because I know that once I'm here holding your hand and I'm supporting you along the way, the best part of vulnerability, the best part of having an authentic, safe space is that once we put the supreme light of God's love there, you're going to see yourself of who you really are, right? And so my job is to echo, right, always, all the time, to men that believe in yourself and keep the faith at all costs, no matter what the challenges that are coming your way, So I love when she said in the video that you're not seeing the intangible value that this woman is offering you. She might not be doing the physical labor, but having her in your life, bringing out a certain amount of confidence, bringing a certain amount of honor, right, when it comes to the responsibilities, right, that you now feel like you have elevated to be able to be a good steward over, being able to do or protect her in some way. All of that is bringing so much out of you, but those things are not, things that we can just obviously kind of like tangibly, outrightly see. But I love that she said it can cause you to close more deals, I'm going to take some time out because I think Corey took some time out to write an answer. Thank you, Corey. Corey said, the trap has already been set in regard to the breakdown of family structure and marriage. These things have lost their true value and meaning and has become a give and take situation. Very true. We had a whole episode on that, talking about in modern society, are relationships more a labor of love or is it exchange and reward? And most definitely, I agree with you with that, Corey, for sure. That's why one of the reasons I come on here is to create content that hopefully, people can come across that works towards, right, the building back of the nuclear family and focusing on the importance of it. I think in this conversation we're having now about intangible value, I always say it here on the podcast that every great nation, every great country, every great society starts from the bedrock and the fundamental structure of a family unit, a whole family unit, right? Because if that family unit is broken, then they're going to create broken people who go out into their communities, and those broken people create societies, right? And however they navigate the world and however they feel about themselves, they then become, right, how we govern ourselves, So all of that can be rooted back to the nuclear unit of the family. And I think what you're saying is so true, because now that is probably, right, on a grander scope, looked at as intangible value, right? It's not outright like how much money you making, you know. It's not looked as honored as much, you know. So hence why I do, you know, the shows like this, so that we can kind of like bring the focus back to the truth that no, this is really fundamental. You know, it's really, really fundamental. And don't get me wrong, thank God for God and other angels, you know, that he and people he uses for people who are like me, right, who didn't grow up in a nuclear unit where mother and father was there, and, you know, the household was, you know, loving and things like that. God will bring people to come in the way to fill those voids and express love toward and goodness towards you. And if you receive it, then yeah, you have every opportunity to become your best self, even in the midst of not having those two people. But even with that, you know, I always say it's only because of God, right? Because I didn't have those two people, you know, so I rested heavily on that. And I acknowledged the people who came into my life that decided to pour into me. So, but I completely agree with you, Corey. Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think if we start to focus, you know, on the intangible value that really are I saw it as I was kind of researching, bringing this to you guys tonight. And it was an article, and the title was Intangible Value, the Building Blocks of Purpose. And I was like, oh man, that's so true, right? Not only the building blocks to long lasting, healthy relationships, but just the building blocks of purpose, you know? So hey, Justin, how are you? Thank you for popping in. Anyone new coming into the podcast? We are talking about intangible versus tangible values and relationships. And the question that I put out that I would love to hear from you guys is, one, if you're married or in a long-term relationship, I would love for you to tell me what intangible value your spouse, your partner offered you that you were like, it's a done deal. Right? Like, I'm not looking no further. This person is just right for me, and I'm taking them off the market, right? So let me know. And you can also let me know what you think yours was towards them. If you are single and, you know, aspiring to be married, you can answer the question in this way: what intangible value do you think you have to offer in a relationship? And I would love to know, for the folks that are on here with me, do you think that when you're approaching your relationships, that you need to focus more on the intangible value? You know, maybe this conversation is making you kind of reflect in that way. Let me know what your thoughts are on in that, you know, and what are the intangible values that are in, you know, that you regard the most, you know. Like they said on the video, for him, respect is a big thing. And that's not a, you know, outright, I think that could be thought of as an intangible value, you know, not outrightly necessarily, you know, seen or outrightly valued right away. So let me know. So I've definitely said, for me, selflessness, the ability to not have selfishness overtake, overtake me. And it's not in like an obvious way, you know, where people who are, you know, they're takers and they want to take everything, and they're not a person who gives. I think you can be a giver and you can still be selfish when it comes to certain things. And what I mean by selfish, just so that I can, because I know whenever people hear this, sometimes they're like, what? Clutch my pearls. What? No, I'm not selfish. I mean, for you to think of selfishness as just having one angle that you're looking at something from, not looking at something from a holistic point of view, right? So that could mean that your partner says something to you and you only are thinking about how it made you feel, just what it triggered in you. You're not looking, to be empathetic, to put yourself in their shoes, or look at the situation as a whole and put it in the context of what's going on currently as why the situation occurred. And now I'm thinking too, because I was just telling you guys earlier on, I'm not sure, I wasn't sure in the beginning, at least I thought, where the selflessness that I have comes from. Definitely the example that I gave you early on of acknowledging and honoring the people who came into my life to pour into me, wanting to be in position to do that to others. But I also think me studying communications in college really helped, because in my communication studies pathway, it was heavily in speech communication, but we also focused a lot on journalism. And so in journalism, they're always wanting you to look at something that you're researching or a situation that occurred, knowing the who, what, when, where, why, right, and how. And so that definitely, I think, trained me to not just look at something from one perspective or one angle, but try to have a holistic type of understanding. And I think what I also found intriguing, and still find intriguing about it, but also puts me in a good positioning for coaching, definitely, my clients, because when you look at things from all those different angles, you're looking, at least we were in school when I was doing my studies, we were looking to see the consistency. You know how something can happen, an event can take place, and then you have like 5 eyewitnesses, and each eyewitness is, recounting what they believe that they saw and things like that, and you're just looking like a detective to try to piece it together, to try to see where the consistency is, to see what is the truth. And I've always loved that. My grandmother used to always say, you need to be an attorney, you need to be a lawyer, because my mind has always been very curious in that way and wanting to piece things together. So I definitely think the selflessness, that also helped in training me to be selfless, because when something approaches me, I'm not automatically just going to stay in my, just looking at it from my way or my one perspective. I really do try to jump out. So definitely that's one thing. I'm trying to think of another thing. I would think unwavering faith. I'm looking forward to checking to see if I'm right with Ben when I get off from you guys. But I think unwavering faith, my unwavering faith, there has not, and if he was here, he would tell you, there has not been a moment out of all this June will be 20 years that we've been married. There has not been a moment where I've doubted, or lost faith in who, Ben is, and what, believing in his capacity to do something. So I think that's also intangible value that I have to offer that has been great, a great, tool or support system for him, for sure. And I'm trying to think of another one from him towards me. Definitely that trustworthiness and just security, like consistent security. I'm trying to think of something else. I don't know how to articulate this, but I think that Ben has a really good... Oh, I know how I'm going to articulate this. I think his submission to just God, his submission to Christ, and that probably adds into why I have that security and that trustworthiness about him, because I know that he is very adamant about consulting God on all of his decisions. So that definitely is something intangible, because I'm not in, privy to his internal prayer, unless of course he tells me, between him and God. And knowing that I have seen it afford him to be able to make like the just right decisions in like the right time, because he's tuning in and always checking in. So it's kind of like if you have a choice to make from a good decision from a great decision, or a good decision from an excellent decision, or you can have, a good experience or the best, high quality experience. It's like that, and when he's doing that, I know because I've seen the evidence and the fruit of it, where it's like, how did you know, to like jump at the right moment? The example or the metaphor that I think of, that I'm thinking of now is like, imagine if you were trying to like hop on a moving train, and you want to leap right at the right time to be able to latch on, and not, of course, fall to a fatal accident. I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but that's what it made me think of, because he just seems to, because of that internal constant prayer and not being dismissive to the guidance of God in, certain areas of his life. Nothing's off limits, right? Nothing's too little. He's not waiting for something, the most dire situation to come about to now say, okay, let me consult God. No, he's in the rhythm and has constructed a habit of everything. Let me lay everything at God's feet. And so I think definitely that has been something that's an intangible value that I have definitely saw the evidence, reaped the benefits from, is one of the other things that I would say about him is his willing to submit. And I think that definitely plays hand in hand with me feeling like I can just wholeheartedly just free fall and just trust him, because I know that he's not wanting to put the whole weight of everything on himself, so I can trust that there's a higher guidance that's guiding, our life. And so, yeah, that would be another thing. So you guys definitely let me know your thoughts, whether you are on with me now or catching the replay. Let me know your thoughts on everything that we have presented tonight, from the scenario, definitely the men. Is that something that you thought about? Is that a bridge that you had to cross to finally, come to say that, no, this is the woman that I want to commit to, or maybe you were the opposite and you met the just right woman for you, and it was like there was no thought of, can I have something better? And definitely, if you're a man on here listening, I would love for you to flood my feed and leave some advice to young men who might be experiencing that. Like, what is it? If it was a hump that you had to get over, right? What did you do? To kind of come to the space to where it's like, okay, no, I can't live in the future or in the what ifs. I need to kind of hone in on what's going on now and see if this person is the right fit for me, so that I don't waste my time or waste their time, right? So I would love to hear from you guys in that way, and definitely women, both women and men, let me know what are the intangible values that you saw in your partner that made it where it was like, okay, this is it, I don't need to look any further, or what are the intangible values that you offer to the relationship. So let me know, flood my feed, catch the replay. If you heard anything that you like, definitely go to my Forever Friends Academy page. You'll be able to see the entire videos there, and you'll get notified when I'm on. So feel free to definitely spread the content, pass it on, like, comment, subscribe, etc. But definitely spread it to anyone who you feel would benefit from this type of content. So I appreciate you guys. And if you want to dive in deeper, definitely join My Forever Friends Academy. If you're on Facebook or Twitch, it's in the description, or on YouTube. If you're on IG, just check the link in my bio and you guys can check out, go to the website, check out some of the snippets. We have a really good time. It's a good community of like-minded people who are focusing on some of the most essential things in life, which is our relationships. So appreciate you guys, as always. Everybody who came in, Corey, Mr. De Jesus, Miss Mary, protagonist, or everyone. Names that I forgot. I love you guys for coming in. I always say you could be anywhere, but you're here with me. I appreciate you investing some of your time and your energy. I appreciate it. So, God willing, I will be on with you guys Sunday. And let me know your thoughts on the replay. All right. You guys have a lovely night. And as always a pleasure talking to you guys. And always remember to live to love freely. All right. Bye.